Both CP and Teamsters Canada Rail Conference blame each other for causing the work stoppage. Workers are calling for better wages, pensions, and work conditions. Given concerns about already strained supply chains and high inflation, will the federal government table back-to-work legislation? Seamus O'Regan is the Minister of Labour. He's with us from Calgary. Minister, good to see you. Thanks for making the time.
Thanks, Tash.
You haven't, as we outlined, tabled back-to-work legislation yet. What about the bargaining process as it stands, or the bargaining that's taking place, leads you to believe it's not necessary right now?
Well, they're in the thick of it and nobody's left. That sounds like a fairly low bar, but in fact, it's not. And the bar for, invoking right-to-work legislation, because in effect, what you're doing there is you're depriving any leverage that workers may have. And workers have that right in this country. They have the right to go on strike. So, it's perilous stuff to just invoke it at a moment's notice or without having really just cause. So in this situation, what you have obviously is something that is very much in the national interest. But yet you have parties that are at the table that are productive, that are plugging away at it. And they deserve and should have the chance to find that deal. And the reason why that's important as well for people, stakeholders, and other people who are watching, is because the best deals and the most permanent and resilient deals are reached at the table between the union and the employer, and that's where we are right now.
Yeah, I don't think many stakeholders would disagree with that assessment, but I think they would also wonder, how long does the federal government wait for that deal to be agreed on before intervening? So how long, from your perspective, do the two sides have to come to a productive agreement without your intervention? Is there kind of a red line at which you're like, this has cost too much, we need to do something?
Yeah, look, this is both an art and a science, but I know one thing for sure, that anything that I say here or elsewhere in the media has an effect on the table, has an effect on their ability to reach a deal. So I have to walk that fine line of, look, assuring Canadians that I have their interests at heart, that I understand that this is the worst possible time for a work stoppage right now, with the stresses and strains on our supply chains, both from COVID, from floods last year, the short window that farmers have in order to feed their cattle. I get all of that. But at the same time, if I start, flippantly, putting out deadlines and that sort of thing, it will have an effect on their ability to get a deal. And I am singularly focused on them getting a deal.
And I truly take that point, and I'm certainly not asking you to be flippant about it. I think just given the economic interests at stake here, people are wondering, is it okay if we lose the ability to get our fertilizer for 3 days, for 4 days? And maybe you can't put an arbitrary timeline on that, and I certainly do understand that. But for example, 3 weeks from now, do you imagine the federal government is still going to be waiting for a deal?
I won't even say that. And I usually like being a little more frank with you, but in this situation, I can't do anything that will affect the ability to get a deal. That is the most permanent solution that I could offer Canadians right now. I have faith in their abilities, the abilities of the negotiators, for the union, and for the company at this table. They are plugging away at it. My job is to create an environment for them, a stable environment to move them along. We have incredibly able people in the Labour Department here and the federal government who are well known to the negotiators on both sides. And this is a difficult and precarious process. I know how difficult it is for stakeholders to watch this, looking for, frankly, any ounce of stability and surety and certainty that they can find. And I'd love to be able to offer to them. But I will say that, I will tell them, hand on heart, they are my top priority. I understand it and I get it. Many of these stakeholders I've gotten to know as Minister of Natural Resources. I know what they're going through. This has been a heck of a 2 years. This is the worst possible time for a work stoppage, and I want a deal now.
Has your government completely ruled out, and again, not asking for the arbitrary timeline, but have you ruled out the use of back-to-work legislation?
I have faith in the table, Ashley. I have faith in their ability to find an agreement. That is what I want. We believe in the collective bargaining process. We know that that is the best way for both the employer and for employees to get the best deal and most resilient deal. And that's what I want. Frankly, I don't want to be back all the time at this, to be honest with you. That just adds to uncertainty. I want to throw in the deal. I want a deal that they arrive at themselves.
Respectfully, though, that doesn't answer whether or not back-to-work legislation is completely off the table.
No, I know.
So you just don't want to answer?
Exactly.
But why not? And I mean, just by saying,
because I don't want to affect the deal.
Yes, but you agreed to give an interview about this subject. And like you pointed out, there are many Canadians and many stakeholders whose livelihood could be impacted by this. I'm certainly not in any way asking you whether you're going to or not going to. I'm simply asking, is it an option available to this federal government, or has it been ruled out?
I have faith in their ability to reach a deal. I really do. Every signal and every sign that I've gotten from them at the table is that they are plugging away at this and you're making significant progress. So even talk of that option is something that could affect that table right now, and I'm not going to do it.
What is your message then to, for example, the farmers who need fertilizer, who have been so much impacted already by the conditions that you outlined, from lots of things happening outside of the borders of this country, lots of things beyond our control, but who are, counting on 75% of their fertilizer to be moved by rail, to the suppliers who are already having issues and are counting on rail to get, what exactly is your message? I know that you don't want to affect the deal. I know that you think that there is some reason for optimism, but they are clinging to you being able to help them out at this point. Are you willing to?
I am. I choose to be optimistic. I have reason to be optimistic. I believe that frankly, the negotiators on both sides have also read the mood of the country. I think that they know, how much is at stake here, and that for those farmers, manufacturers, Canadian consumers, Canadians in general, that, the saying in Newfoundland, as we often say, is the nerves are rubbed raw. People's nerves are rubbed raw. They've had enough. There's enough going on in the world right now. They don't need any further instability or uncertainty. And I think that those negotiators at the table get that. And I think that my message, therefore, to stakeholders would be, I've heard you loud and clear, and I'm here defending your interests. And I know that the interests of Canadians and the interests of the economy is getting a deal between the parties now.
Minister, the Premier of Saskatchewan, I was thinking actually a few hours ago, I remember covering a different rail strike a few years ago, and I know the Premier has proposed the federal government classifying rail workers as essential workers. Is that up for consideration?
Well, I would just say this, you don't do that flippantly, right? If you deem that railways in this country are an essential service, and, you would just think common sense, of course, they are utterly essential. I think, most Canadians are learning over the past couple of years just how essential they are to the national economy. But designating them as such, within the labor, as a labor term, means depriving them, frankly, of their leverage at the bargaining table. And I don't do that flippantly. I don't do that easily. It's just, you are depriving workers of their ability to bargain in good faith. And frankly, workers bargaining in good faith over the years have given us things like sick leave, maternity leave, weekends, things that we take for granted. No, that is not something I'm entertaining right now. What I am entertaining is getting a deal at this table. And I have faith in the people who are there to get this done quickly. Okay. I think they get it.
Understood. Thank you, Minister. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Vash.
Seamus O'Regan is the Minister of Labour. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.